All right, so on the back of that, SACP spokesperson Dr Alex Mashilo now joins us live to unpack what the Red October campaign is about this year. Dr. Alex, good afternoon. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for having us on SABC.
Dr. Alex, in lieu of what's come to the fore in South African context today, what is the significance of Red October campaign for those who've just tuned in?
The Red October campaign was initiated by the SACP in South Africa, motivated by the revolution that occurred in Russia in 1917. We saw, as a result of that revolution, a new government and state created in Russia with the workers and poor, as well as peasants, people who lived from agricultural activities, working for themselves in rural areas, at the center of that state. And they used that state to look after their needs. Now, in South Africa, we use the Red October campaign to focus on matters affecting the workers and poor and other sections of society. You will recall that when we launched the campaign, it is the one that drove the financial sector campaign, which resulted in many people who were excluded by banking institutions being included through the Mzansi account. We saw the creation of the National Credit Act out of the campaign, which helped South Africa not to be impacted severely by the crisis that broke out in 2008.
Yes.
This year, the Red October campaign is focusing on the cost of living crisis that affects millions of South African people.
Now, Dr. Alex, the SACP has spoken about the threats driven by insecurities of a hegemony in a crisis. And so in a South African context, given the high unemployment figures amongst many other issues, what would the SACP like to see happen, especially in the context of the working class?
Let us take things for now. If you look at the budget presented by the Minister of Finance in February in Parliament, that budget reduces growth in average medium-term expenditure framework for economic development and industrialization. So you have a negative growth in the resources allocated to the actual growth activities like economic development and industrialization for the period 2022 up to 2025-2026. When you reduce your expenditure in the economy, because spending in the economy is not fruitless and wasteful spending, but it is investment, you are not going to achieve growth. And growth comes from supporting domestic production, whether manufacturing, whether services, whether agriculture, whether mining. When you reduce support for domestic productive activity, you are suppressing employment creation. At the moment, we have approximately 12 million active and discouraged work seekers in South Africa who are unemployed. This is very dangerous for our country. So when the General Secretary presents the message for the SACP in a few moments from now at the Red October campaign, he will highlight our proposals. And one of our proposals is that the state must focus on investing in the economy using fiscal policy, meaning the budget, as an instrument of growth. If that becomes successful, we will see growth in productive activity in the economy. And growth in productive activity will result in employment creation. In some areas, especially high-tech industries, you have employers who use robots and automated machinery, but you have a highly skilled workforce such as artisans, multi-skilled artisans, technicians, and engineers who are employed in those settings. So we need to advance as South Africa so that we are not left behind. We need to support the growth of agricultural activity because agriculture employs more people. We need to support tourism because that also contributes to employment creation. We need to industrialize our economy. If we do not industrialize our economy, we are going to continue wearing clothes that we have imported, driving that we have imported, making use of cell phones and computers that we have imported. In other words, we are going to continue taking more money outside of South Africa to import goods because we are not productive ourselves and we have not industrialized our economy. That will be one of the points at the center of our message to be delivered by the GS in a few moments from now.
Okay, thank you for those sentiments. So you're speaking about the proposal focusing on the investment of the fiscal policy, where you're going to use the budget as an instrument of growth. And so as we look at where South Africa is, perhaps as we edge closer to elections next year, where and how is the SACP positioning itself, perhaps even as part of the Tripartite Alliance, and how it's going to serve, how relevant it's going to be in terms of serving the people, given the socioeconomic factors that we're facing as a country?
Firstly, if you may allow me to add,
Sure.
The General Secretary will be focusing on the country's fiscal situation at the moment and the drive by the Treasury to intensify austerity. He's going to be coming out very strong against austerity, and he will present the proposals that the SACP presented within the alliance as alternatives against austerity. He's going to be outlining them. This year, meaning 2023 and going into the 2024 elections, the SACP is going to employ a different electoral strategy. In the past, we participated in ANC-led alliance processes to inform the manifesto, to advance the demands coming from the workers and poor, to ensure that they are in the manifesto. What we have learned from reviewing our past experience is that not everything that the workers and poor want finally makes it in the manifesto. Secondly, even items that do make it in the manifesto, such as if you look at the 2019 May elections manifesto, financial sector transformation demands from the workers and poor, not all of those are implemented. So this year, we are going to add our own. So in other words, we will say, this is able to achieve within the framework of our participation in the alliance to get the demands of the workers and poor in the manifesto. However, not everything has gone into the manifesto. Then we will produce the second document that will outline everything we wanted, which will not go in, which will not have made it into the manifesto. And as we will be campaigning, we will be saying, let us push and hold the government accountable, not only for what would have made it into the manifesto, but also for what will not have made it into the manifesto. This is the strategy we will be following, and this strategy has a particular destination which will be reviewed by our next Congress, because we are going somewhere, we are changing our strategies, we are changing the way we engage in electoral politics, we are moving with the times. And as we do so, we are also building a popular left front, which we said, if the alliance is not reconfigured going forward, we will engage in electoral politics through a popular left front.
All right, so Dr. Alex, if I heard you correctly, you're speaking about employing a different electoral strategy, and given the sentiments by the SACP, who demanded the reconfiguration of the Tripartite Alliance, even threatening to leave it if the ANC ignores it, are you saying that if demands are not reflected in the manifesto, that the SACP will choose to run as a separate entity? I mean, what are some of those scenarios looking forward, edging closer to elections? Just very quickly as we wrap up.
So far, the ANC has agreed that it has considered the strategic imperative for the reconfiguration of the alliance. And on its own, it reached the conclusion that the alliance must be renewed and strengthened. So we are using two terms. COSATU and the SACP are talking about reconfiguring the alliance, but in agreeing, the ANC emphasizes the renewal and strengthening of the alliance. That's where the process is at the moment. And we are going into the elections based on this shared perspective to strengthen the alliance through renewal and reconfiguration. However, what we are doing as the SACP going forward to the next elections, because the 2024 elections are not the last elections to be held in South Africa. We are building a popular left front because we don't want to invest all our energies in a positive outcome in the reconfiguration process. What if at the end of the day, our positive expectations about the alliance reconfiguration do not bear fruit? What will we do? So to answer that question, we are busy forging a popular left front because there are so many elections to be held in South Africa beyond the 2024 elections.
Oh, Dr. Alex, you did say that we're obviously going to hear the address by Sali Mapaila in just a few moments, which obviously is going to just outline what you've alluded to now. Let's leave that conversation there. Thank you very much for joining us on the SABC.